you're probably expecting this coming from me about Keyport, the situation up there. And I understand you had a meeting with several of the representatives and DEP and the locals too. So I'm glad to hear that we're really concerned about it. And it's, understandably, people are nervous. And it's taking on a life of its own because you know how that goes with once a rumor gets out or something like that, it really, takes off. So we're hoping to get to the bottom of it, but this is not anything new. Since 1986, inspections have found pollution and toxins from the Aeromarine site. And I was actually out there about 10 or 15 years ago, so I have a visual of what it's like. And it's prototypical superfund site where you have a former industrial site, then it was a landfill. It's right by the bay, so you have all the the whole pattern for serious contamination there. Get into the groundwater, get into the bay water there. There's some creeks, so we're very concerned about it. The ground certainly is contaminated. The waterways in the bay are contaminated. There was I believe it was Bay Ridge Realty was brought to court, but the judge dismissed it several years ago. And it's a little bit unclear where it stands right now. Does the DEP plan to force a site cleanup? Because you can, under the statute, force them to clean up the site. Is that correct?
I need to get back to you on the legal authority there, given 12 weeks on the job. But that is something we are drafting all the different options on the table. When I spoke with the mayor of Keyport earlier today, it was one of the things of interest to her as well as Congressman Pallone. And so we want to lay out all those different options and work in partnership to make sure we're really putting it all out on the table and working through and navigating those together.
Okay, and you know what, I can give you a little bit of information too. The state imposed $900,000 in fines on Bay Ridge Realty.
Yeah, that I am aware of. That's different than what you said, though. But that is waiting to go before the administrative law judge, which is scheduled, I believe, for June. So until that is finalized, the judgment's sort of like our paperwork, like it's not a final judgment.
Okay, so that's still in the legal process. Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, well, that's good. I hope you would keep us in the loop as far as,
Absolutely.
when there's new developments or some sort of definitive
That is our
decision on this, because it is really very concerning, and I know a lot of the folks who live there, and you don't want to be day to day wondering when you're not going to feel right, and is this the result of this. So I'd appreciate if it's really put on the front burner and really taken care of until it's resolved. It's hard to believe that after all these years it still hasn't been remediated. And I know there was some a few years ago. I think there was a potential for housing development there that never fell through. It did fall through, and now there's another proposal to build houses there, which is a scary prospect in itself.
My understanding is there have been a number of different proposals that, being that it was named Brownfield Development Site, which would allow the developer to take over the site, be responsible for the proper closure. You might say sort of cleanup, but it's really the capping and closure to make sure the contaminants that are there don't make their way outside of the site, and then to develop the site. Each one of those have fallen through. There's another prospective purchaser currently, and they've hired a company, CESI, to do an investigation of the site. And we're speaking with them. We actually issued a permit just a few days ago to allow them to conduct a new set of testing, because the last testing we have is from 2010. And we feel like having new data is going to be really helpful to help make an assessment of the current situation, both the types of contaminants and the level of contamination. And then we'll work with the Department of Health to assess whether there's a pathway to human exposure based on those findings.
And also determine if there's a plume that may be moving.
That's exactly right. The way the grid is set up, the report and the data itself would help to determine that, or further testing would be necessary or warranted. Additionally, we're making it a priority to go onto the site and do third-party validation of the testing that's happening. And I'd say an extra measure, but I think equally important, needless to say, we also share the concerns of the community, and take this very seriously. In addition to having a meeting, last week with the EPA, ourselves, the Department of Health, we had the meeting with the mayor. We'll be following up with you as well, and looking to hold a community meeting where we can have discussions directly with the families and answer questions. Some questions we won't have answers to right away, but we can walk them through transparently exactly where we are and what they can expect to hear from us, and do that in an expeditious way, openly and transparently, and quickly. That is also something that's very important.
Okay, and this, just so you're aware, this came up when the Department of Health came in here too. And there's a little bit different task here, and they're still making the determination if it's an official cancer cluster based on the data. I guess it's a formula they use to determine it. So we're waiting on that information also. Okay. So hopefully between the two, we can get some action, and sooner rather than later.
That's right. And we also would like to do water sampling along the Raritan Bay and the creek right near the landfill. And so that's something we're making a priority as well.